Hello everyone. Welcome to Sarai Circle Mentorship Program 2025 by Circle IAS. Today we are going to cover the approach to Indian polity for mains exam. We know it is one of the most important subject when it comes to UPSC exam. Weightage is very high for the polity part. So let's start. I hope the screen is visible to everyone. First, let's discuss the importance of Indian polity. It is one of the most important subject for UPSC CSE both for prelims and mains. We just covered that. And it also one of the most analytical subjects. Around 125 marks is the share in GS2 paper. And it is not just confined to GS2. It also overlaps with other areas like, for example, GS1, Modern India. There is a topic called Historical Underpinnings of the Constitution in our polity syllabus. And it also a major area for modern India. For example, questions like Government of India Act 1935, it comes in both polity and or in GS2 as well as in GS1. So the share of polity or the weightage of polity, it does not end in GS2. It goes beyond GS2 and covers almost all the GS papers as well as essay. And in GS1, society part, acts and policies related to women empowerment, the idea of secularism, etc., are very much related to polity. So we need to understand this importance first. And for GS2 governance and social justice, these two subjects can be treated as extension of polity only, because there is no much difference when it comes to topics, but the approach is slightly different. In areas like internal security, acts like PMLA, UAPA, Digital Personal Data Protection Act, etc., are very much significant. And if you go through the GS3 2020 paper, you can see there is a question on Digital Data Protection Act. So acts and policies, these areas are not just source of questions for your polity part or GS2. Rather, it is being asked in GS3 as well as in other areas. And in GS4, ethics, knowledge of constitution, acts, and policies are very crucial. Example, there was a question on constitutionalism or constitutional morality, not constitutionalism, constitutional morality in 2019 exam. And also terms like constitutionalism is important because this is an area where, or these ideas are very important for not just the part A, also for case studies, because you can quote terms like constitutionalism, constitutional morality when you're taking decisions and policies. And in essay, polity is a major dimension. And if you're well versed in constitutional provisions, then you can enrich your answers or arguments through citing those constitutional provisions, maybe constitutional articles, etc. This is how we understand the importance of Indian polity for mains exam. This last point, there is no need to explain it. We know for prelims exam, polity is the area where most of the questions come from, or on an average, there are 15 questions from polity. Sometimes it is 12, very rarely, but most of the time it is 15 plus, including current affairs related questions. So this is the importance of polity. So that is why Sarai Circle Mentorship Program is starting with this subject or a basic approach to Indian polity. I hope this is clear. The importance is clear. I'll show you the importance with respect to numbers or marks. This is a PDF. This is a screenshot of the PDF shared in our group, Telegram channel. It has been made by, I guess, Gigi, the captain's group. So from 2013 to 2023, this is the share of polity questions or the questions from polity syllabus. I can clearly see it is always 125 or around that figure, but few elements are missing here. If I am making this kind of PDFs, I would add some more areas, because government interventions and policies and issues arising out of these policies, I would treat them under Indian polity. Here they treated it under social justice. So it is always 125 plus or 125 in GS2. And we are just seeing that it is not just in GS2. Polity is crucial for GS1, GS3, GS4 as well as essay. So this is the importance of this subject. Now just see what is Indian polity. Simply, polity refers to the form or structure of government and its organization within a state or society. Again, there are few terms that might be unfamiliar, like state. In technical terms, what is state? We'll cover that, don't worry. And Indian polity, or the term polity, encompasses the institutions, processes, and systems that define how power is distributed and exercised. So it is the form or structure of government of a society or a state. So if we consider India, polity refers to the structure of government and its organization within the state. It covers institutions like the parliament, the cabinet, judiciary, then election commission of India, various constitutional and non-constitutional bodies, and the processes like elections, then systems, the electoral system itself, and how power is distributed and exercised among these organs and institutions. So this is the basic understanding of polity. One aspirant must be having. So this is where you can start with, and it includes not only the formal government structures but also the informal and non-state actors that shape the political landscape. For example, non-state actors like NGO, even the population. We are all part of the this political structure or Indian polity works within the framework of Indian Constitution. Since we follow a constitution, we have a written document. It is the fundamental law book of the country. And we need to understand what is constitution. Constitution is a document that enjoys special legal sanctity. It is the most fundamental law book of the country. It contains principles and functions of the organs and elements of a state, and it also clearly defines these aspects: how institutions, process, and systems works, and how power is distributed and exercised among these institutions. So this is what the idea of Indian polity, and Indian polity, it works well within the framework of Indian Constitution. Initially, we seen there is a term, state, technical term. It was also a previous year prelims question. State is a political entity that has sovereignty over a specific territory and population. It is a legal and political concept that defines boundaries of a country and its institutions, including government, courts, military, and other institutions. I hope it is clear. We'll just move on and see an important flow chart. Is it visible to all of you? I hope so. This is how Indian polity works within the framework of the Constitution. See, Constitution is here, and the Constitution draws its authority from the people of India. Preamble clearly states it, right? So the source of authority, we can say it is Constitution, but Constitution itself derives the power from the people of India. The source of authority comes from people ultimately, and it provides a political framework for both center and state. In this part, the center side, we have legislature, executive, and judiciary. This is how power is divided among three organs, three important organs of the state. And in this legislature part of the center, we have Rajya Sabha as the upper house and Lok Sabha as the lower house or the popular house. In the executive side, there is president. President is not just part of the executive. We need to be aware that president is also an essential part of the legislature. All the acts and bills comes into force with the assent of the president. So president is an essential part of the parliament. Only one constitutional position or post which is part of both of these two branches of government, president. There can be a prelims question. President is part of both legislature and executive. And then there is vice president, part of executive, then the prime minister and the council of minister. They constitute the idea or institution of cabinet. Now, also, we can say this prime minister and council of minister, they are all part of the non-permanent executive, whereas the bureaucracy, the civil service, it is a permanent executive. So this is what constitute, or these are the parts or subparts that constitute legislature and executive branch of the center. Now, when it comes to the judiciary side, at the central level, it consists of Supreme Court, which is the guardian angel of the Constitution. So this is how the political framework works at the center. Now, let's go to the state side. There also, we can see a legislature, executive, and judiciary. There is legislative council as the upper house. In some states, we have legislative council. And in all states, we have legislative assemblies. And governor is both part of executive as well as legislature. There is chief minister and council of ministers. And again, bureaucracy as permanent executive. In the judiciary side, we have high courts and lower courts. But all this is an integrated judiciary. Right. The Supreme Court is above all the courts in India. We have one more concept, or there is one more idea within the Constitution, that is not center or state, it is somewhere in between, or an entity which is under the ultimate control of the center. They are known as union territories. They are under the control of the center. They don't have the authority or the power as a state, but they are lesser than the states, or they compared to states, they don't have much authority or control or autonomy. We can see the union territory of Delhi, which has some more power compared to other union territories, but these are all for later. This is the basic framework. Now, Constitution also provides a system of government. We have a federal structure, but it is not completely or truly federal. There is a unitary bias. There is a heavy bias towards the center, because we know in the schedule 7, there are more topics or more subjects with under the control of center. Many subjects has been transferred from the state list to concurrent list. So the unitary bias is very clear. In Lakshmikant and other books, we have seen the features of federalism and features of a unitary system. So we can clearly say the system of government in India is a federal structure with a unitary bias. That is also very visible from the constitution. And we follow parliamentary form of government. And there is a unique system of emergency provisions. We don't see these provisions in most of the constitutions of other countries. And when it comes to federal structure, it is not just the two levels of government, rather, there is a third tier to our federal structure, that is local self government. When we study or when we write an answer, we often forget to include in the federal system of government in India. This is the third tier. Simply, if someone asks you, just say federalism is the distribution of power among different levels of government, not division. It is the distribution of power among different levels of government. In India, there is 3 levels of government, but this local self-government, since they are not very empowered, and in many states, they are under the clear control of the state government. So that is why often, practically, we can't say there are 3 levels to Indian federalism, but in theory, there are 3 levels to Indian federalism. So in local self-government, we have Panchayati Raj institutions and urban local bodies. This is the framework of Indian polity. This mind map is very important. I'll share it in the group. This has to be, or this must be your entry to Indian polity. When you prepare Indian polity, you just need to have this picture in your mind. Okay. So this is clear, right? Today we are going to cover the basic aspects of Indian polity. I thought these concepts, at least the idea of political framework as well as the idea of state, these things must be discussed. This is the idea of state. There are 4 essential elements to state. One is population. Without population, there can be no state. So just think as India as an entity where we have a clear geographical boundary and people residing within this geographical territory. And that population is the first element of the state, or population is the first element of any state, any modern state. It doesn't matter how many people live within this defined territory, even if it is a small number, but 1 or 2, maybe think of Vatican City. It is a state where the population is very less, and there are states like China and India with huge population. So the number doesn't matter. If there is 1 or 2, or there are people residing within a defined territory, we can treat it as a state, provided that the other elements are also present. The next thing is territory. State is a territorial unit. Always, it is a territorial unit. A well-defined territory is essential, no matter how big or small. Defined territory is very crucial for a modern state. So India, we have a defined territory. So these 2 elements are present. Now let's discuss third element, that is government. Government is any organization or working agency of the state which make, implement, enforce and adjudicate the laws of the state. Usually the government will be having 3 organs to divide these functions. This is what separation of power is. Legislature for lawmaking, executive for law implementation, judiciary for law adjudication. So this is the governmental structure that we are talking about. The legislature for lawmaking, executive for the implementation of the same thing, judiciary for addressing the disputes arising out of it, and to safeguard the constitutional principles, etc., we would be having judiciary. The 4th element is sovereignty. Sovereignty can be divided into 2 parts or 2 sub ideas. One is internal sovereignty, deals with the power of the state to order and regulate the activities of all the people, groups, and institutions which are at work within its territory. So, internal sovereignty means the state would be having the power to regulate the activities of the population and use the resources that is present in the territory to enable or to facilitate the development of the population as well as the progress of the country. So this is the internal sovereignty. The state would be having the ultimate authority to regulate the activities of all the people and groups and institutions within the territory of the state. And there is one more idea to sovereignty, that is external sovereignty. Take the example of India as a modern state, and India is completely independent to take decisions when it comes to affairs with other foreign states. So complete independence of the state from external control and the full freedom of the state to participate in activities of the community of nations. This is what external sovereignty means. So initially we have seen that in India we follow something called popular sovereignty or people are sovereign. But practically this is very difficult for a country like India or any country. So usually what happens is on the behalf of the state or on behalf of the population or simply on behalf of the state, the sovereignty is transferred to the government because the government is selected by, in democratic countries, the government is selected by or elected by the people. And you have to mention about the types of sovereignty. If there is a question on sovereignty, you can mention these two aspects. Definitely, these two aspects are very important. So, like most of the time, we talk about internal sovereignty, but there are two aspects to it. So, on behalf of the state, government handles the power of sovereignty or government holds sovereignty on behalf of the state. So these two ideas, the political framework and the idea of state, are very essential when you begin your preparation for polity. Not just for mains, but for prelims also, these ideas are very important because I guess in 2020, there was a prelims question on the idea of state. These four elements were there in an option. There were two confusing options, but if you go back and read the question again, there would be only one where all these four elements are clearly present and evident, and that is your answer. These important aspects are not discussed anywhere, but this is how we are going to approach Indian polity. I hope this idea is clear. Maybe we can take the example of India. See, we have a huge territorial extent and huge population, and the idea of state comes when we all have aspirations to develop. There are resources for our development or our aspirations. For example, let's take the case of electricity. We need electricity to make this discussion happen. And there is resources like coal and water, but we cannot go to a dam and generate electricity by our own, or we cannot construct the dam by our own. It would take a lot of time and effort, and also there would be chaos, right? So that is why, in order to manage these resources, we have set up systems, governmental structures and institutions to generate electricity for us and provide at a reasonable price or cost, and we pay tax as the price to the same service. So this is how state works. There would be a territory. Territory essentially means resources present within the territory. It is not just very vague idea, rather resources and all the parts present within the territory. And this resources are very essential for the development of the population. And government comes into the picture to organize these activities so that everyone would be having their own aspirations and it would be helping them to achieve those aspirations. And when they deal with these resources and the population, they need ultimate power or the authority to make this happen. Otherwise, there would be arbitrariness. So, sovereignty comes into the picture to make this practically happen. Right? Is it clear? So, this is how the idea of state works. Definitely, Lakshmikant is a holy textbook for Indian polity. It can be your basic source material. It is useful for many topics for both prelims and mains. But for mains, it is not enough. Maybe for prelims also, it is not enough because this idea or the question on state in 2020 prelims exam, I don't think you can attempt that question with just the reading of or understanding of Lakshmikant. For that, you need some other materials. I'll just mention that in a while. You can enrich or you can do value addition to your understanding with newspapers and monthly magazines for current affairs, or maybe for Election Commission of India, the topic like Election Commission of India, the basics can be covered through Lakshmikant. But if there is some amendment or some changes to the selection procedure for election commissioners, that can be covered through the current affairs materials. An example would be One Nation, One Election. Discussion on One Nation, One Election. You can use current affairs materials or monthly magazines and newspaper for enriching your understanding of those basic topics. But I would say for many topics, we'll see with the help of previous year question papers or maybe the 2024 GS2 question paper. But before that, let's see what are the other important sources for Indian polity. If you ask me, I would say you need the Constitution of India or the Bare Act with you. Because I guess there was a question on 2024 prelims. It was the following ways constitutional amendment can be done under Article 368. And the options were addition, repeal, and alteration. So if one is familiar with the constitution and the major articles, then only they can attempt questions like that. Also, if you have Bare Act, you can clear your doubts with the most important or the ultimate source. Either you get a PDF or a Bare Act from any bookstore. I can share the PDF in the channel, or maybe you download any applications on your smartphone, because there are plenty of applications or apps available in both Android platform and iPhone platform. So better you have this Bare Act with you. One must start their polity preparation with these two NCRTs, Indian Constitution at Work. These two are the textbooks of class 11. So Indian Constitution at Work and Political Theory. That question on state in 2020 prelims directly taken from this book, Indian Constitution at Work. And there were questions on secularism and the idea of federalism, etc. Straight away taken from this textbook, Political Theory. So better you start your preparation with these two fundamental NCRTs. This is going to give you big returns in next year prelims as well as mains, because Lakshmikant would not be enough for answering many of the questions. We'll see that in a while. So I have the PDFs of these three important sources. I'll share it in the channel. And now let's discuss how to approach this polity in GS2. Initially, every aspirant must go through the syllabus multiple times to get familiar with it. In the next step, go slowly. Like initially, maybe for 1 or 2 days, just read through it. Just read through the syllabus or get a printout of the same and divide it into this sub areas or subtopics or subjects. Then paste it on your wall. Anytime you can go through it. But after reaching a point where you feel that, okay, this is almost by hearted, then you can go and try to consolidate all your current learning or understanding of each major topic. For example, historical underpinnings of the constitution. There you try to recollect all your previous understanding or pre-existing knowledge and try to see whether you can generate around 250 word, at least 250 words content with respect to these topics. And in the next stage, go through all PYQs from 2013 to 2023. It is available in the channel to understand the subtopic under each major topic. For example, Government of India Act 1935, it would come under the historical underpinnings of the constitution. There were questions on this particular topic. So you need at least 250 words content for a topic like Government of India Act 1935. Just an example, I'm leaving this exercise to you. In the upcoming sessions of Indian polity, we'll do that. But for a subject like polity, I wish you start this kind of preparation by yourself, so that for other areas, or maybe you would be getting ready with the preparation or this kind of deep level preparation. But I won't say this is going to take a lot of time. Initially, it might take time, but once you make it a habit or internalize this approach, this would be very helpful. And next time, when you're dealing with maybe international relations or economy and agriculture, this exercise would be very, very quick. You don't need much time to do all these things, because already content and like ready-made content is available. You don't need to analyze everything. You just need to see what is being asked and what are the subtopics and how I plan and strategize my preparation for each subject. Right. Then try to brainstorm answer for these PYQs. We have PYQs with us today, and find out the most relevant topics. What are the most relevant topics? And for these relevant topics, try to have 250 words content. Okay. And if you're not able to generate, or if you don't have 250 words content at this point, this is where your own analysis or your individual analysis is going to happen. Now identify the gaps and deficiencies. What are the areas you struggle with? Is it content or facts? Maybe let's say there was a question on the freedom of movement and residence within the country. It is not absolute, but restricted. Comment. So it was a question, I guess, asked in 2021 or 2020. You might be remembering this is from Article 19, but you don't know the exact article. These two rights are Article 19(1)(d) and Article 19(1)(e). Definitely a candidate who can write these specific articles, they would be fetching more marks, at least 1 marks extra compared to your answer. So this is the kind of content or facts I'm talking about. This is not a PhD work, rather the smart work. Just identify the important areas through syllabus and PYQs, then identify your standing or where do you stand if someone is or if the UPSC is demanding you to write an answer just now, or this is your D day, this is your mains exam day, you need to write that answer today. Maybe you can just write or just scribble the answer, then try to understand what is your current standing. This is applicable to all the subjects, but for polity, this is very crucial because, in my opinion, or if you ask anyone, any and who has experienced in this exam, who have maybe given 2-3 mains, or maybe they're teaching, or the selected candidates, they would definitely say his polity is the most analytical subject. So you need to develop this kind of approach to polity, and then you can stretch or extend this approach to other areas also. But polity clearly demands it, so do that. And most of the questions are analytical. Definitely you would be struggling with the analysis part now, but we can develop that with the discussion on PYQs, etc. And once you find your strength and weakness, maybe the factual side is your strength, but in the analysis part, you are lacking. So after identifying your strength and weakness, your preparation plan or your preparation strategy must be around that strength and identified strength and weakness. Plan and prioritize your preparation according to your strength and weakness. Also, as per the importance of the topic. And how do you understand this topic is important or not? Through syllabus and PYQs. And in the next stage, after doing these steps, you can start making notes in mains answer format with an intro. Intro can be the factual side or the content side, or like you can just, for this question I was talking or referring, you can start it with the freedom of movement and residence across the country mentioned under Article 19(1)(d) and Article 19(1)(e) are very essential to a democracy like India, and they are not absolute, and the reasonable restrictions are also provided under the same article, Article 19. Right. So this can be your intro, or maybe you can just mention this restrictions like inner line permit or protected area permit, restricted area permit, or maybe there is a prohibition or restriction on the movement of people with HIV/AIDS, etc., or to protect the vulnerable sections of the society like tribal communities. There is restriction on movement and residence in these tribal regions. You can cite just Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. Right. We know there is restriction on buying land in this Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. So this is how you connect your understanding. So you can have such an intro. Definitely this kind of intro would be impressing the examiner or the evaluator, and the body would be containing like more the important aspects or the discussions on the same topic. Then you conclude. So make your notes in this format. This is going to help you in your mains answer writing or mains exam, and this is what going to help you the most. And this would also help you to clear your prelims exam, because this kind of approach would help you to have a clear understanding or better understanding of the major topics. I hope it is clear, this approach. Now let's see the syllabus. Indian Constitution. This is how Indian polity syllabus is starting. Historical underpinnings. evolution, features, amendments, significant provisions, and basic structure. Functions and responsibilities of union and the states, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure, devolution of powers and finances up to the local levels and challenges therein, comparison of Indian constitution scheme with that of other countries, separation of powers between various organs, dispute redressal mechanisms and institutions. When I'm reading this, try to have that mind map in your mind. That mind map, no, the initial one, this one. Now you would understand the importance of this mind map. This is almost covering the entire syllabus. Okay. Separation of powers between various organs of the state, that legislature part, parliament, then center executive, then judiciary at the center, that is the Supreme Court, and various other organs and organs for dispute redressal mechanisms and institutions, parliament and state legislature, structure and functioning, the conduct of business, powers, privileges, and issues arising out of this, parliamentary privilege. It was also too many mains questions. Appointment to various constitutional posts, powers, functions, and responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. So, combining these two, appointment to various constitutional posts and comparison of Indian constitution scheme with that of other countries, you can see a 2022 question. It was something like this: critically examine the procedure of election of Indian president as well as the president of France. See, appointment to various constitutional posts. President is a Indian president is a constitutional post. So appointment of Indian president and its comparison with the same procedure of the president of France. This is how UPSC is making questions for your mains exam. And you also, if you can't prepare of this manner or with this manner, then your chances would be narrowing down. So better you try to understand how questions are being framed or asked and change your preparation in that manner. And now structure, organization and functioning of the executive and judiciary, ministries and departments of the government. Then there is a topic, interesting topic, pressure groups and formal, informal association and their role in polity. Remember, in the very beginning, I told you, Indian polity is not just about the governmental structures or institutions. It is also about all the formal and informal groupings and associations and the dynamics between these entities, both government as well as non-governmental entities. So it is also covered under the syllabus. This year also there was a question. Salient features of Representation of People's Act, government policies intervention, salient features of the Representation of People's Act. We often forget to prepare this, but most of the year, I don't think this year there was a question on this particular topic, but most of the time there is a repeating pattern or repeating question on Representation of People's Act. And usually it is a 15 marker. So there are two acts, Representation of People's Act 1950 and 1951, right? Are you familiar with these two acts? Maybe for prelims you have studied it, but in the mains point of view, you might be yet to start or you might be lacking some content for mains perspective. Okay. Government policies and intervention for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. I'll show you a question on this area. Then finally, statutory, regulatory, and various quasi-judicial bodies. The relevance of getting familiar with syllabus is not just for your mains exam, but for prelims exam also, because see, this is where everything is clearly given. So if you check the prelim syllabus, you won't see these kind of or this many subtopics. So a better understanding of the syllabus for each subject would help you in your preparation for prelims also, right? Bodies are there. So how do you identify the subtopics? What are the statutory bodies? Here there is, I guess, constitutional bodies, right? Where is the constitutional bodies? Okay. Appointment to various constitutional posts. This is what constitutional bodies. Here you can see constitutional bodies and statutory, non-statutory, regulatory, and various other quasi-judicial bodies. So today itself, you go and have this somewhere where you can see it. Whenever you look around, you can see it. Not just the syllabus for polity, maybe get a printout of all the subjects for your mains exam and have it in different places in your study room. Now, how to start? Where do I start? Because this seems very vast and huge. So first you go and finish all your pending areas of the syllabus. You have syllabus with you. If there is an area where maybe you haven't studied about or you haven't read on pressure groups and formal informal association and their role in polity. So initially, for a rough understanding, you just go and read these topics. Maybe you will be having your class notes or check in Lakshmikant. If you can't find it, then just Google or seek the help of ChatGPT or Bard or any other generative AI to have simple note on or basic note on these topics. If you can't find any or if you can't make any, just let me know. If I have a better note with me, I'll share it. So the first thing you have to do is go and finish all the pending areas of your syllabus. This is not like deep study or deep learning, but just to have an understanding like what is the topic. Then you can go and have this approach. Or this is where you start, but like where you when you properly study polity for your exam or for the upcoming sessions, first I need you to finish your pending areas of the syllabus. Now let's see, just try to connect the syllabus as well as the PYQs or this year exam paper. Can you see the question? With your current understanding of the syllabus, let me know whether you can connect it with the syllabus. Each question. This is 2024, this year's GS2 paper. We can verify whether the initial points of the relevance of polity and the nature of questions, whether they're true or not. See, there are 10 markers and 15 markers. We'll also count the marks for polity. Okay. Examine the need for electoral reforms as suggested by various committees with particular reference to one nation, one election principle. Can you answer this question through Lakshmikant? Is it there on Lakshmikant? I don't know the latest edition, but in the sixth or fifth edition, it was not there. So you need current affairs, magazines, or newspaper, or your own notes for answering these questions. And also, I don't think like many committees are mentioned in Lakshmikant, right? And what is the syllabus connect? Examine the need for electoral reforms as suggested by various committees with particular reference to one nation, one election principle. What is the syllabus connect? You can
Election
either,
Commission and elections,
yeah,
generally elections.
yeah, generally election commission, and maybe can say, yeah, various constitutional bodies, parliament and state legislatures, yeah, structure, functioning, and the conduct of business, powers, privilege, yeah, maybe that, or simply it is a constitutional bodies, right? Election commission as a constitutional body. That is the syllabus connect. Okay. Now moving on. Explain and distinguish between Lok Adalats and arbitration tribunals, whether they entertain civil as well as criminal cases. Very technical. These kind of technical questions are also asked by UPSC. So what is the syllabus connection of this thing? Structure,
Judiciary
organization. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Structure, organization, functioning of the executive and the judiciary. And also maybe you can say dispute redressal mechanisms and institutions. It is also in your syllabus. So only with a clear understanding of the syllabus, you can frame these kind of answers, right? Initially, you have to identify what is the context and from where does it come from. Okay. The growth of cabinet system has practically resulted in the marginalization of parliamentary supremacy. Elucidate. So this question requires the understanding of the concept called parliamentary supremacy. What is parliamentary supremacy? Do we have constitutional supremacy or the judicial supremacy or parliamentary supremacy? Then we can see that it is a blend of both or somewhere in between. We don't have judicial sovereignty or parliamentary supremacy. Rather, the constitution is there in between both of these things. Parliament has the amending power, but it is restricted. Right. But the question is not on a discussion on parliamentary supremacy versus constitutional sovereignty or judicial sovereignty. Rather, the growth of cabinet system is detrimental to or deteriorating or marginalizing the parliamentary supremacy. This is from separation of powers, right? You need to write on separation of power because executive, parliament or the legislature and the judiciary. So here, executive, the role of executive is to implement those policies. So if they are deciding the policies and everything, so it would affect the powers and functions of the parliament or the legislature. So at least you need to know or be aware of the fact that like from which all areas of the syllabus this question is coming from. Moving on. To the next one. The duty of the comptroller and auditor general is not merely to ensure the legality of expenditure, but also its propriety. Comment. From 2018 to 2024, there were like 3 times UPSC asked questions on CAG. So this is how you understand the relevance of a topic. How many times it is repeating, what is the repeat value, or what is the occurrence in prelims. So CAG for both prelims and mains, this is one of the most important or core topic of your preparation. So this is how you understand or identify the core topics or core subtopics and prioritize your preparation. You need to dedicate time on CAG. What are the reports presented by CAG? Then what are the articles related to CAG? What is the basic function? What are the basic functions? What are the challenges in appointment? And what are the general challenges with respect to this office? Is there a politicization, etc.? For both prelims as well as mains perspective, you need to thoroughly prepare on CAG. Right. Okay. This is simply constitutional bodies. CAG is a constitutional body. Unless the role of local bodies in providing good governance at local level and bring out the pros and cons of merging rural local bodies with urban local bodies. 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. The syllabus connect would be federal structure, devolution of powers and finances up to the local levels and challenges therein. Clearly, it is mentioned in your syllabus. So, this is how you should plan your preparation, or the approach should be based on syllabus, PYQs, and then the final element of the triangle of Sarai Circle's approach would be practice. Plan and practice should be based on or must be based on syllabus and PYQs. You don't need to go and read all the topics. You don't need to do that. Once you're ready with the basic topics, then you can at least use the same content to answer the bouncer question. You don't need to have knowledge in each and every topic of the paper. If you have content for around 60 to 70% of the topic, you can manage and write decent answers to other questions. So, see, there are 5 into 10 markers, so 50 marks in this area. Just see the next question. Public charitable trust have the potential to make India development more inclusive as they relate to certain vital public issues. This is from social justice, I would say, these development process and developmental organizations. Extension of polity only, right? Informal groups or formal groups, public charitable trust, etc. The extension of polity only, development and inclusivity or inclusive policies, etc. Very much connected to polity, but this is from social justice, so it is not from polity. So 5 questions, and then there are 15 markers. The first 15 markers, what are the aims and objects of recently passed and enforced the Public Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Act 2024? Whether University State Education Board examination 2 are covered under the Act. Answer in 250 words. Very specific, technical. One might struggle to answer these kind of questions if they are not preparing current affairs topics, and this is where you need sources beyond Lakshmikant. These kind of topics would not be covered in Lakshmikant. There you need monthly magazines or any institutes or the help of mentors. The syllabus connectors, government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Right. Government acts. 12th one is very interesting. Right to privacy is intrinsic to life and personal liberty and is inherently protected under Article 21 of the Constitution. Explain. In this reference, discuss the law relating to DNA testing of child in the womb to establish its paternity. The second part is technical and specific, but this part is a repeating area for prelims as well as mains. You need to bring in Puttasamy case and the broad ambit of Article 21, protection of personal liberty, protection of life and personal liberty. Then right to privacy is an inferred right under the same. It is not specifically mentioned or explicitly mentioned under the same. Then with the help of your current affairs preparation, you can address this thing. Right. Now the next question is very much current heavy or it was in news for a long time, but basic question only. What changes has the union government recently introduced in the domain of center-state relations? Suggest measures to be adopted to build the trust between center and the states for strengthening the federalism. Can you cite some of the changes, the new changes brought in the domain of center-state relations? Any body or an organization or a council or something? GST council, no?
Yeah, GST.
GST council. Fine. So, like, suggest measures to be adopted to build trust between center state and strengthening federalism. What is the syllabus connect?
Niti Aayog can also be there.
Yeah, Niti Aayog can definitely. Good.
Interstate councils and all.
Interstate council, it is already there, no?
Yeah, okay, recent.
Yeah, recent. Niti Aayog is a recent phenomena. Then you can mention maybe Epidemics Act and the changes to it, because it affected during the COVID-19 pandemic. The state power was very much curtailed, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Then maybe you can also mention about CBI, right? It is also affecting center state relations. They change rules. Fine. Then, but like for the time being, what is the syllabus connection? The second point, the federal structures, devolution of powers and finances up to the local servers and the challenges therein. One of the core area of your syllabus, federal structure, federal scheme. To understand what is federalism and the core ideas, to go and read the political theory textbook of class 11th. I'll share those PDFs. Maybe better if you have the habit of reading the hard copies, better get it from a bookstore or some of your friends, borrow it, but you need to read it. Both those NCRTs. Moving on to the 14th. Explain the reasons for growth of public interest litigation in India. As a result of it, has the Indian Supreme Court emerged as the world's most powerful judiciary? Comment. The syllabus connect is the structure of judiciary, right? No, not just a structure of constitutional bodies or the various organs of the state. Then there is the aspect of fundamental rights and Article 21, due process of law. This is where public interest litigation comes from, right? Not the procedure established by law, it is the due process of law, protection of life and personal liberty. Not just the aggrieved person, anyone can approach the court under the domain of public interest litigation. This is what due process to ensure just and fairness, right? Okay. Last one, discuss India as a secular state and compare with the secular principles of the US Constitution. Comparison of Indian constitutional schemes that of other countries. Also, you need the textbook of political theory to understand what is Indian secularism with clarity. And you need books beyond or materials beyond Lakshmikant to understand the secular principles of the US Constitution. So make notes and prepare with the help of syllabus and the PYQs. Practice under the same strategy, right? So here it is. The 15th one is the last polity question. 16th one is Citizen Charter has been a landmark initiative. Again, polity related, but this is a question from governance. So 5 into 15, 75 plus 5 into 10, 50. This is what the share of polity, which is 125 in a paper of total 250 marks. So this is the importance of polity in just GS2 paper. But if you count all the other papers and essay, it would be at least 200 plus marks. I'll show you the evidence of the same with GS3 paper. Okay. Read the 10th one. Describe the context and salient features of the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. What is the subject area? Is it from economy? Is it from environment and ecology, or S&T question, or internal security? Like, people usually don't expect Digital Data Protection Act in 2023, but I told my students to prepare this for GS3. I also made a mock test series question on the same thing, encryption technology, etc. This is from internal security, basics of cyber security. See, acts and policies, they are not just confined to GS2 paper. It goes beyond that. When you write the exam, in order to not get surprised, better you have this kind of approach to your preparation. But this is not a rigorous work, rather a smart work, because you don't need to study a lot of topics, but the most important topics. Those topics, those 20% of the topics which would yield 80% of the returns, or which would help you to get 80% of the score. This is the approach. You know the Pareto principle, right? 20% of your like smart effort would deal help you to get the 80% of the result. So this is GS2 paper, GS2 and GS3 paper, and the significance through this year paper. So let's finish our slide. Going back to the slide. So you start with the pending areas. I have few practice questions. This one, it was there in the introduction session, but since no one has sent me the answers, I am putting it again. Discuss the adjective attached to the word republic in the preamble. Are they defendable in the present circumstances? Answer in 250 words. By next week, you send me the answer for both of these questions. Discuss India as a secular state and compare with the secular principles of the US Constitution. These are the two practice questions for this week, 2024 and 2016. Before we end, I strongly recommend you to by heart preamble because there were many questions. Questions like this can be effectively addressed with the help of the text of preamble in your mind and the order, etc. Because then only you can like have a coherent answer. Then preamble first, then part 3 of the Constitution, at least all the fundamental rights or Article 12 to Article 35. Just need to know what is the article and what is the right or what is the core or the crux of the article. So part 1, then DPSP, similar manner you need to know article and the what is the core idea. Then part 4A, fundamental duties. This is going to help you to get an extra edge over other candidates, not just in your polity paper, but in essays as well as even when you go to the interview, you can impress the interviewer or the panel by citing these articles and the preamble. This would work. So with that, from my side, I would be finishing here. If you have any doubts, don't hesitate. Ask your doubts. In the beginning, I told you this is going to be a basic approach to polity. We'd be having 3 more sessions, at least 3 more sessions in mains perspective for polity. But I wish you implement this approach to your preparation, not just for polity, but start with polity first. Find at least 1 hour or maybe even half an hour for polity for the time being, because it is one of the most important areas of your entire preparation, because this is where people usually take that extra leap or extra edge over other candidates. From my own experience as well as with the discussion of selected candidates and toppers talks, you can identify or you can understand that this is the core or most important area of your mains and prelims polity. Thank you. Sneha, if you have any doubts, please ask. Alina. Okay. So for other areas, maybe for international relations, we don't need an approach to international relations like this. International relations, next week we have international relations. So there we are going to straight away discuss PYQs and the syllabus, because the share is only 50 and it is not like polity, it ends there. International relations, maybe for prelims also, not lot many questions are asked. So for such minor topics or minor subjects, we can have syllabus plus PYQ approach. But for ethics and polity, we'll be having initially an approach session, basic approach, then PYQ plus syllabus approach. We'd also cover, like initially, we have discussed what is polity and the concept of state. In the upcoming sessions, with the help of the syllabus and PYQs, we would cover the important topics also. And polity, you find the weak areas and let me know which all areas we must be discussing. I'll prepare and come so that we can make it more effective. If you don't have questions, we can wind up. Okay. Thank you.